Hi, Internet. It's been a long day, but I didn't want to finish it without getting to this because I've been meaning to for a few days. And they've been a few tough days. And that's been instructional, and that's mostly what I wanted to talk about. I believe the last time I finished by talking about the moment to moment versus the application of this shift in consciousness versus the in-depth part. And I've been working a lot on the moment-to-moment part. And due to having a couple pretty tough days, I've learned some things. One of which is particularly interesting has to do with discomfort and pain, and how that's actually really helpful for this. I find this fascinating because there are more than a few phrasings that one can read about that have to do with literally carrying a cross. And sometimes it's claimed that this metaphor is, in fact, a metaphor for this very thing, for using things that hurt and that are difficult as fuel, or as I guess fuel is the best word, because they don't enable you to do this if you don't already know how, but pain and discomfort can give you a boost when you're trying to do it. So here's how it works. You are trying, as a matter of doing this thing, to shift your focus. And the most recent way that it became phrased in my head, which was kind of interesting, and the more I understand this, the more I practice it, like I get little ideas, like, oh, this is like this. The most recent way was that it was looking at yourself. It was looking out from yourself as opposed to in at yourself. The psychology, the stream of voices in old programs is almost always thinking of or referring to the self either in the third person or in the first person as an object. And the shift in focus eliminates that. There's no longer that self-referentiality. Instead of thinking about yourself, even in the first person, instead of thinking, oh, I am this, I am that, I am that, you kind of turn it around this way, and now your experience is one of being that thing instead of looking at it and qualifying it and quantifying it. And I talked a little bit before about how difficulty can remind you to do that, because this isn't as useful for everybody else, but if you're me and you've been looking for a way out of the icky parts of your head for a while, you may have gotten to the point of convincing yourself that this is the only thing that will ever possibly help in a real and permanent way, as opposed to in a distraction-based way or temporary way, or ways that are smaller fixes. Like I'm always looking for like the foundational, fundamental fix. But deeper than that, and more poignantly than that, pain can make you, if you're already doing it, if you're already trying to do it, a pain or discomfort, a fear, anything that you wouldn't normally think of as a good thing to happen, can kind of pull you into it. And so, because I've already been trying to do it, and my experience for the last couple weeks, for the last couple months really, up until this last week, my experience was one of kind of, every couple times a day, just doing this the same way that you would, try and do jumping jacks a couple times a day, or, make an effort to eat well. It was kind of just an ongoing thing. Do this. Even when I was having hard days, I was using the fact that I was having a hard time to remind me. It was the string around the finger. Ah, that shit sucks. Oh, wait, I should be doing my thing. But what started happening in the last couple days, maybe a week, is that I'm used to that now. I'm used to trying a couple times a day and doing that. Um, and, and and I had gotten really competent at trying, really competent at remembering to think about it and remembering to to go with that. And okay, try this, try this, try this. And it wasn't that I wasn't making any progress in it. It's just that it was, I think, a necessary beginning phase, at least for me. But anyway, I got to have the experience more recently of having those negative things that happen, and sometimes it's just a thought or an emotion, sometimes it's a thing that happens, and I've had some of both recently. Um, but I've had the experience of, since I'm already doing it, I'm already kind of trying, something negative comes up, and it's like, just it pulls you, and instead of, it's like I've already done a little bit, I've already kind of gotten, sort of made the switch, and I'm just kind of hovering in my little, oh look, I'm a little more, I'm a little more present, I'm a little more paying attention, I'm a little more in myself, but it's like then something comes up, and my natural reaction now is to sort of flip it, and it's like, wow, like, I'm a lot more, um, and I've had the last 2 days solid of pretty regular um, experiences like that, including two things that are new. One, I can do it more frequently with my eyes open now, including when I'm actually sitting down to meditate, to work on, really getting it deeper and doing it deliberately. Um, like I'll get into that state and open my eyes and be like, I've done it while walking now, which is, I've done that before, but it's usually pretty tricky, and it's just kind of like, no, now if I am just walking and I have a minute, I can usually, and I can do it much more reliably. Like I'm starting to be able to hold it a little bit longer, although it's still probably a matter of seconds, but it's not like, whoa, I got it gone. Um, it's like when you're learning to balance on something, and at first you just have a breath of balance, and then you fall off, and then pretty soon you have, oh, look, I'm balanced, and then you fall off, and I'm kind of like at the, look, I can get there, I can stay there. I also have been able to do it in the presence of other people, twice in the last couple days, and that's usually, I mean, very difficult because, um, I mean, other people being around is just such a powerful motivator for your brain to go back to its usual way of doing things. Um, it makes, I think, everyone slightly defensive, and when you're being defensive at all, you go back to your normal way of doing things. Um, in fact, one of the things that one of the very good writers on this topic said, actually probably several of them have said it, is that if you want to get the hang of this, you have to practice doing this when there's nothing going on. You have to practice doing this when it's just you sitting in a room, because as soon as something is going on, as soon as something comes up, as soon as something challenges or scares you, you're going to go back to your regular way of doing things. If this is your regular way of doing things, if you've gotten the hang of the new focus, then that's what you'll go to when something hard comes up. But if you haven't, then something hard happens, and you're just going to go right back to this. And I think that's absolutely true. This is incredibly difficult mentally to do, and it's sort of like, juggling six things. And if you're really comfortable with juggling six things, then you can get some really bad news on the phone and juggle while you're hearing it. But if you're not, then you're going to drop everything, and that's definitely been my experience. But and I wanted to note this partly because I want to have a record of the positive side of this. It has been a couple days, and including some bad news and some relatively difficult, just emotional stuff. But there is your cross is your burden, but it is also your salvation aspect to it. Because of that, I have made a lot of progress in the last couple of days, and it's been hasn't made things easy. It hasn't, made everything awesome, but it does make it easier, having access to this space, this perspective. And I love that word for it. Now, a friend of mine told me today, you need to work on your perspective. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what I'm working on. He doesn't know about this, I don't think, but it's like, oh my God, you're absolutely right. I do need to work on my perspective because that's what it is. And a shift in perspective shifts everything. And that's that foundational level change that I like and have been looking for is, I don't want to polish brass on the Titanic, especially not when it comes to me. Um, I want to fix things, and if you want to fix things because there's a fundamental something fundamental is wrong, if you really want to get to the engine room of living and having a mind, perspective is where it's at. But yeah, I have definitely gotten a lot further in the last couple days, and if it hadn't been for the difficult things that I've been dealing with, which are not anything that people don't deal with, but if it hadn't been for those things, I would not probably have gotten that far. Um, and because I've gotten that far, I've done better with those things than I think I normally would have. I can absolutely think to a time in my life not very far away that getting this level and conglomeration of difficult news and having these particular challenges at the same time would have caused me to have like not just a difficult couple days, but a I'm not getting out of bed couple days, and I didn't. I didn't do anything more damaging than indulgence in junk food, um, and maybe sleep a little bit, but for the most part, it's just been difficult. And every time it gets difficult and I respond to that, um, or have preemptively responded to it by seeking this shift in focus, in perspective, it's made everything 1,000 times easier. Um, I can't say that it's made everything brilliant and wonderful, although, and I'm running out of time again, I'm trying to keep these under a quarter of an hour, let's not be silly here, but um, remind me, oh, great and powerful internet, that I need to do one on the time that everything was wonderful, um, because that definitely should be said closer to the beginning than the end of this experiment. But anyway, it hasn't made everything bright and shiny and lovely, but it has made things better, and easier. And even without changing the facts of anything, it changes the facts of things because it changes the perspective. It's like saying I didn't move any of the furniture in the room, but I painted everything. It's like, well, that's a pretty big change. I haven't done anything that you could see on the Titanic, but I have, in fact, made significant improvements to the engine room. Anyway, I think that's about it for this time, because the next thing I really wanted to get into is the time that I did this, because the time that I did it, where everything was in fact wonderful and amazing. The technical term for such a thing is a samadhi. Um, I was in fact in the grip of a really terrible fear that's not dissimilar to one of the ones I've been dealing with this week. And although you don't, a samadhi is beginner's luck. A samadhi is walking out onto the field for the first time and making the most unbelievable catch in the entire world and dropping everybody's jaw. And now you're going to come to training and do push-ups for the next, 5 years before you ever do anything half that good. That's just, that's how everything works. But I've had that experience before, and it's definitely worth reciting and gives me a lot of insight into, you know, what I'm doing when I'm getting close this time. So, I'll stop there, but thank you all again, and I will hopefully not be too long before I do another one, but I'll get this one uploaded. I've actually been uploading them. But anyway, thank you guys, and I will talk to you more soon. Bye.